Hey Sales World. Learning how to conduct great sales meetings takes a bit of practice to master. In this video today, I'm going to share with you some of the best practices I've learnt during my time as an enterprise B2B salesperson. I'm going to share with you how to uncover everyone's agenda, meet their expectations, and ultimately reduce the length of sale, which is our ultimate goal. And also stay tuned to the end, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you one of the most embarrassing stories that's ever happened to me during a sales meeting. And you're going to think, why the hell did you do that? And I ask myself this question every day. I still get chills thinking about it. So stay to the end to watch that. My mission with this channel is to create content from many lessons that I've learned out in the field as a B2B enterprise SaaS salesperson. I've made many mistakes and learned many lessons, and I hope that I can share with you some of those to avoid you making those same mistakes, similar to the story that I'm going to share with you at the end of this video. So if you're on a journey as well, like and subscribe, and you'll be notified when I release regular content. Okay, let's get into it. Learning how to conduct an effective sales meeting takes some practice. Anyone can hold an okay meeting and just tick the box, have two parties come together, share knowledge, and go away. But it's becoming excellent at sales meetings that will really help you stand out against the competition and start differentiating yourself, be memorable, and ultimately win more opportunities. Before we start, we first must appreciate what is the purpose of any meeting. The purpose of any meeting is really for two parties to come together to share information or gain information in the hopes to achieve a certain purpose. Whether that's to qualify someone's worthwhile pursuing to become a client, or whether a client is engaging with you to see if you're the right solution for their business, there's a purpose to every meeting. And if there isn't a purpose, then it's a waste of time. Now, the first tip in actually conducting a great meeting is to set an agenda, and to set an agenda well before the meeting date. Now, this is particularly important for meetings that may take some effort in coordinating a number of people to come to that meeting. In some instances, you may need to schedule a meeting 2 weeks or a month out to be able to get everyone in that meeting. So we want to set an agenda to highlight the topics that we're going to cover in that meeting so everyone can come prepared. There's nothing worse than if you're having a meeting and you don't have that information, or a client doesn't have that information, and then you need to reset that meeting in 2 weeks or a month's time. And that's one of the ways that a length of sale gets increased, because of lack of information at the time. In some instances, you may only get that one instance to present that information, and if you miss it, the interest dies, or another competitor can supply it, and they end up going in that direction. So setting an agenda is critically important to making sure that you can share the right knowledge or receive the right knowledge to propel an opportunity forward to ultimately then buying you at the end of the day. Now, the second part of setting a great meeting is during the beginning of the meeting in the agenda, have introductions. Now, this is particularly important when new people are coming into a meeting all the time. What we want to do is not only introduce ourselves from your side and a client side, but we also want to understand the purpose of them being in the meeting and what they hope to gain out of that meeting as well. When I structure a meeting, I'll go around the table, and this can be difficult if there's more than 3 or 4 people in a meeting, but I'll ask them what their name is, their role, and what specifically interests them about today. So I can take notes and address them as we're going through the topics of discussion later on. If there's more than 3 or 4 people in a meeting, maybe I'll ask someone in my team to take some notes so I can actually engage with them, watch their body language, and try to judge or build unconscious rapport. It can be difficult taking notes, and I'm not a great note taker, so if I have to do it, I'll say, please forgive me. I just want to take some notes, so I'm writing down exactly what you're looking to achieve today. Now, this is particularly important for those quieter people in the room, who may not have the courage or are confident enough to speak up. If you're addressing their needs and taking them down, then they'll feel heard, and it's a great way to build rapport and differentiate yourself from others who may come in later who aren't doing this. Now, after we have those introductions and cover off the specific interests of the people in the room, it's important to go back and discuss what the previous topics were and get your key person on the client side to recap from their perspective what their current thinking is and what we've discussed previously, so they can convey how they're perceiving us. It's important they do this because how they speak about us will go a long way to aligning how everyone looks at us as well. It's also a great way for you to get an understanding of how they're currently talking about us when they're trying to communicate the value that we're providing or the previous interaction. After we cover off the background or the previous meetings, now we start going through the topics of discussion for the day. Now be aware of all the key interest points of the people in the meeting and make sure you specifically highlight those interests as you go through your topics. If you're going through those topics and you see that you're not going to address one of those people's interests in the room, obviously deviate to that if you can, but if you can't, call that out to that person and say, I don't have the people in the room to address your current needs today, but what I'll do is I'll schedule a follow-up meeting with you and I'll make sure I bring the right person to the meeting. There's nothing worse than trying to fumble your way through and address something that you don't have the skills for. The person that you're engaging with will feel appreciated and heard, and you have a next step to address those concerns, those interests, whatever is important to them, to start aligning them to your product or your service and getting closer to close that deal more quickly. After you cover the topics of the meeting, it's important to recap. And it's important to recap with everyone in the room and going back to every single person and asking them, did you meet their needs during this meeting? If you haven't, it gives you a great opportunity to address those specific concerns. And again, those people who are not quite confident enough to speak up, you'll be able to address those specific concerns. And if you can't, you have a next step to be able to set another meeting or get them additional information. And another important question to ask at the end of these meetings is trying to tie their business needs or the business discussion into their emotions. So I'll always ask, does it feel like we're on the right track? Once I've done a recap, I'll ask my main point of contact or a couple in the room, or I'll put it out as a broad statement to say, does it feel like we're on the right track? Now this has a very specific purpose. People buy an emotion first and business logic second. Although you're speaking about obviously business process or business questions or challenges, what we want to do is get the people in the room to think about their emotions, get them to stop and go, does it feel like we're on the right track? To get them to engage with that gut feeling. Because if they say, yeah, it actually feels like we're on the right track, you know that you're making progress because that gut feeling is not telling them something doesn't feel right. Now, more importantly, what we're trying to draw out is if they say, I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure. I need to think about it. That gives you a great opportunity to explore that and maybe say, hey, can I ask you what you're not sure about, or what haven't we covered off that may be of concern to you? Because at the end of the day, that gut feeling is what they'll act on first, and they'll continue moving forward. People always buy an emotion first. It does not matter whether it's a business or our personal lives, they'll follow their emotion. So we want to draw that out in a meeting. And particularly if it's a champion in a meeting, asking them how do they feel about it, you know they're a champion, they're always going to answer in the positive, and it will give confidence to the rest of people in the room. So it's a really important tip as well. It's not a guarantee for a sale, but it helps you know that you're on the right track. It certainly helped me in many situations. And finally, at the end of every meeting, we need to have next steps. There's nothing worse than not having next steps. You feel like you haven't made any progress to an opportunity. Now, even if you're having a coffee with someone and you're trying to build rapport, always have an idea of what a next step could be. I'm sure you've seen salespeople, they think the goal of sales is to have meetings. So they'll have continually meeting after meeting after meeting, and don't seem to make any progress. It's because they're not progressing the opportunity or having a plan of a next step. So in a larger meeting, what we want to do is think about what's our best outcome that we want from this meeting. And we would try to steer that towards, at the end of the conclusion, to say, okay, well, what's the next steps from here? We've satisfied all your concerns. What's the next logical step in your business that you need to take from here? Or how can I engage with you after today to help you with X, Y, or Z? We want to keep moving the opportunity forward. Because at the end of the day, a sale is a consequence of someone deciding to buy, from them not knowing you to them purchasing you. So we want to keep moving forward to get them closer to a sale. So always have a next step. Otherwise, you feel like you're going around in circles and you're not making any progress in a sale. I hope that helps you understand how to set a great sales meeting to differentiate yourself and set a aura of professionalism, and really uncovering everyone's interests or concerns in every meeting. What we want to do is address those as much as we can, so we can move that opportunity forward as fast as we can and reduce the length of sale. It's by not addressing those concerns or not having that information prepared that we will delay the sale, because we have to do that same meeting again in a period of time. And if you think about it, it takes 2 weeks to schedule a meeting. If you have to do that 3 or 4 times, that's an extra 2 months on your sales cycle. And that's how you reduce the length of sale easily. So just to recap, it's setting an agenda, doing introductions, and asking about their interests. It's following the points of the meeting, then recapping, and then setting next steps. So I hope that helps. So I'm going to leave you with this video with the most embarrassing sales story ever. So before I go, I would love to know about your embarrassing stories if you had any. This is a safe space on YouTube. Share them in the comments below, and also make sure you like and subscribe if you want to as well. All right, so I was in this sales meeting with this person. We're actually looking for funding for our startup through a Queensland government organisation. So me and this gentleman are sitting away from each other, leaning forward. And I was telling him about the business I was working at. And halfway through the conversation, I thought, that guy has got a hair on his face. I wonder if he knows about it. Like, it was a really, really long hair. And I went, it can't be from him. Like, it seems like a lady's hair from long hair. And it was just sitting there and it wouldn't go away. So after about 5 minutes, I was like, excuse me, mate, can I just grab something? And I grabbed him. I grabbed the hair and I pulled it, and it was stuck to his face. It was mortifying. I think he was as mortified as what I was, but I was so embarrassed and I just didn't know what to do. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I just thought it was someone else's hair. And when I did it, like, I gave it a decent yank, and if you can think, his cheek just, I was so embarrassed, and it was humiliating. Anyway, I ended the meeting as quick as I could, and needless to say, we didn't get the funding. And yeah, so the moral of the story is, don't touch anyone's face. If you think that there's hair that doesn't belong there, that's not your business. Just ignore it. I will never make that same mistake again. So if you have any embarrassing stories, please share below. Until next time, I'll see you later.